In this video, I want to show you the very super helpful interactive manual that you have with Bitwig Studio. So I've got a couple of tracks here. Some are instrument tracks, some are audio tracks. And then on these instrument tracks, I've also got some effects in the effects chain after the instruments. So to see the help menu, I just need to first make sure that I'm viewing the inspector left pane over here. And when I click on an item, if I click show help, this brings up the manual for the item I have selected. So here I've got the flanger selected. And if I play back, I can actually tweak these settings as I'm playing back, and I can actually look at the items and see what each one is. So for example, over here, this is the delay time. You can see the delay time is from 0.25 to 27.5 milliseconds. And this is the delay length before any LFO modulation. So we've got an LFO here. I'm changing the delay time, and I can change it in real time while I'm looking at this manual. And I can see that this interacts before the LFO modulation. So I've got the LFO amount here. I can increase that LFO and change that rate. And then over here is a mix, so I can dial back the mix. And the great thing is, while I'm reading this manual in this digital format within Bitwig, I can play back and test out the settings while I'm tweaking them. Now, this is definitely the best implementation of a manual that I've seen in any DAW. Other DAWs, you've got a manual which is like a PDF format, and when you read through it, you have to read the parameters and what each one is. Then you need to jump back to your application and test it out. But what I really like about Bitwig is that you can just select an item. So let's say I select this EQ, I go to show help. Here is everything I need to know about the EQ. I can see all the different bands, the different gain types, and while I'm playing back, I can tweak some things. So I can go over here, I can see that this is the band type slope. I can click here to change it to something else, maybe a bell curve, and pull that down and hear the changes, or maybe change it back to a high pass and filter out some of those frequencies. Or take band 5, which I've got set here also as a low pass, bring that up, and just tweak the settings and hear the changes as I'm reading through the manual. So this is super interactive and super helpful, and I find that I learn really fast if I need to find something else by going to the show help and checking out some of the settings. For example, on this polymer synth, I'm going to click on this and I'm going to click show help. Now, as you can see, this brings up all the different sections for the polymer synth. You've got a wavetable section, and I can change the index of that wavetable. I can click over to the noise section here, then it switches over to that, and I can test out these parameters. Maybe I want to add in some sub-frequencies and increase that noise. Then I've got a filter section. I can click over here, shows me all the parameters for the filter. I can change that attack and maybe shorten the decay and sustain. And likewise, I can just click over to all the other sections and make changes. So it's crazy how flexible this tool is. You can just go into whatever you want. So for example, let's say I go into this delay, I can click show help and it'll bring up all the parameters for me. Now, as you see here, this delay looks exactly the same as you're seeing down here. So I've got the delay selected, I click show help, and it shows all the different sections. But what I just want to show you is how when I went to the polymer synth, this is just a smaller view of it. I can click here to reveal everything within the synth instrument. Then I can go to show help and I can browse through all the different sections and learn what is happening with all the different sections. Obviously, the polymer is a very more complex, detailed synth instrument with a lot more parameters. So it's very nice to quickly jump in and just see what everything's about. Now, let's take a look at one more thing. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to jump over here to this lead synth that sounds like this. And you can see here, this is using a polysynth. So the same thing here, I can click over here, I can click show help, and it'll reveal all the different sections. So as you can see, the polysynth, it's got a mix blend section where I can blend between the oscillators. There's an envelope section, and then the filter section. And finally, you've got the output section here where you've got your note chain, your effects chains, and setting the outputs. So super helpful if you just want to know more and more about specific effects and parameters. This is definitely going to be your go-to tool where you just select what you want to find more up about, then click on the show help, and then go in and actually analyze what's happening. So for example, here I've got this bit crusher effect. I can play back, change the clock amount, change the jitter and chance, and maybe mix this in and increase the width. And here what changes it has. And obviously you've got this real-time view of what's actually happening on the effect as you make the changes. So super powerful stuff. And like I said, this is definitely the best implementation of a digital manual that I've seen in any piece of software, where it's super interactive, where you can choose an effect, go into the help section, play back, and make changes to the parameters as you're reading up the different sections of the parameters and what they do. So that is the show help section. Definitely dig in there and see how things work. It's a super handy tool if you just want to know what a parameter is doing and the details on it.